Welcome back to the Chicago Tomahawk. I'm Mike, and I got my line mate Matt with me. And today we're going to go over some Blackhawks news, what's kind of going on with the organization, and some NHL news. But first, I want to talk about tonight's game against Dallas. Obviously, Dallas is a team that's destined for the playoffs. They've been playing really, really good. And this is the lineup that they have for this squad. They've got Pitlick at left wing, Kurashev at center, and Radish at right wing. Yes, if you're asking yourself the question, that is the number one line. Blackwell at left wing, Dickinson at center, Anderson at right wing for the second line, Reichel at left wing, Entwistle at center, and Gutman on the right wing. And then for the fourth line, they got Kachuk, Sanford, and Donato. Defensive pairings are Vlasic and Jones, Magna and Murphy, Korchinski and Zaitsev. Yikes.
Dallas doesn't have a chance.
So number one, I don't think Reichel should be on that third line. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on this. You know, a lot of people expect this kid to come out and, start putting up some numbers. And I think that he's got some maturing to do and some much developing to do. And he can't do it in Rockford. He's got to do it at the NHL. He's already gone to Rockford, scored a ton of points. You know, he's at the NHL. This is like his next step. This is where he needs to be. Matt, do you see any reason on why Reichel is better served, especially with the roster that we have and, with the stakes of the season? You know, we're not going to do anything. I think we've got $37 million on the IR. Do you think on the third line is the place for Reichel to be playing?
No, I think he should be getting 20 minutes a game, especially with Bedard out now. Get him as much time as he can. Get him on the power play. Even give him a try at like maybe the second penalty kill unit, just to get him more ice time in more different scenarios.
Do you think the different scenarios would maybe get him a little bit more creative and get him out of maybe a funk that he's in?
Well, like we were talking about before we hit record, it's really hard to put up points when you're on the third line. I mean, usually the third line is playing against the other team's top line.
Right.
So when you're playing against guys like Jason Robertson, Rupe Hintz, and Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, Joe Pavelski, you're not going to have the puck a lot. And especially Dallas, they're a very good team. There's going to be no offense in Reichel's mind. It's going to be like, I better stay on my assignment or I'm going to be like a minus 14 tonight. So
right.
Don't get that. I have a lot of agreements with Richardson on how he's handling, and maybe Davidson too. I'm sure he's got something to do with it with Reichel. But there's no question the Hawks do compete hard every night, and you got to give that to the coach. He's doing a great job with that. But there's just some things. This kid's a top kid. He's obviously would consider him our second best prospect that's playing now. You know, this guy needs to have the surroundings to make him a better player, and right now he doesn't.
Gutman as well. I think he's got a lot of heart and he's got some skill with him too. I mean, I think I'd rather see him on the second line than the third line.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things like his speed is very good. He competes hard, and I mean, you read Donato was on the fourth line. That's another guy. Like, this guy plays hard too, and he's got some pretty good hockey sense. There's like some head scratchers with the lineups. Like, hey, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this. But we should be thinking about developing.
Right?
Korchinski should be thrown into the fire a little bit more, and Reichel should too as well. So I'm not sure what their plan is with this. It's frustrating at times.
Going to the defensive pairings, Vlasic and Jones. I think Vlasic should be playing with Korchinski just because I think they've got a lot of chemistry together.
Yeah, he's been a huge surprise for me this season. I'm a huge Vlasic fan. I know Darren Pang is too. He's always raving about him, and that guy's a very good hockey mind, kind of like an Eddie O type of guy. And he's praising him every night. And when you really zero in on him, he's going to be a good defenseman here. So he's another guy they got to protect and try out some different scenarios for him too.
got Murphy on the second line. Don't you think maybe Murphy should be playing on the first line with Jones and Vlasic and Korchinski playing together on that second pairing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Connor Murphy and Jones got the most playing experience, so I'd like to see them play against the other team's top dogs. They just, that way it's not like a complete, like runaway game. You can compete for a full 60. You know how I feel about Murphy, though. So
yeah. And Zaitsev, man, Zaitsev has been. I would give this guy a lot of credit, man. I wrote him off for a long time, but he's out there competing really hard every game. Has he surprised you in any ways?
Yeah, I think we both were like, what the heck? We got this guy. He's got like that $4 million cap hit, and we're like, come on, we don't need this. But he's been a surprise, and. Yeah, right now, when you're depleted with injuries, this guy is probably a guy you want in the lineup just to give us a fighting chance. So,
like just another body.
yeah, a guy that's put his games in.
Yeah. Nick Foligno signed a 2-year, $9 million extension. I'm really happy about that, man. I'm glad that they rewarded him. He seems to want to be here. When you see him talking to the press, his mannerisms, and he just seems like a guy who's buying in, wants to be here. He's not, at the end of his career, like, I'm just playing, and just collecting these checks. He seems like he believes in what's going on here, and he believes in his role of, kind of mentoring, Bedard and being that presence for these young guys on this squad. I think that they should just, not really bite the bullet. I mean, just give him the C now, man, and let him hand it off to Bedard in a few years.
Yeah, I'm super happy with that signing. And I mean, you kind of debated back and forth about the C and who should get it. And well, I didn't like a guy getting a C when he was on like a 1-year expiring deal.
Right.
But now it's like, okay, so he's going to be here. If you think about it, he's going to be here for another 200 something games, maybe a little less, but that's a lot of games to be playing with Connor Bedard. And that's a lot less pressure on Bedard. So he could just kind of elevate his game and not worry about all the other stuff like Foligno could worry about. Yeah, I think he's getting paid pretty fair for his age, but he brings a lot, so I think it's a great signing. And when you got guys that want to be here that are kind of big names, like Foligno's a big name guy. He's been around for a while, and hopefully that attracts other free agents, and we become like that destination where guys want to come here and play again.
Yeah, and I think the Blackhawks are inching towards that, especially we're gonna within the next couple of years. We'll have these first round picks, and we're going to have some young guys coming up. We're going to have some veterans wanting to come over, and probably some stars. Like, hey, these guys are building something. These guys are going to be making a push to try to make it. Let's see what they got.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. I remember when Kane and Taves, came up, and we were getting some good veteran guys like Campbell, Huey came in, who's just pretty good at the time, and guys were just calling to come in. Like Brent Sopel was pumped, when he was traded here. He's like, I want to stay. And hopefully we get to that level again, because that was fun when we were getting all those guys like at the deadline and stuff. And I can't believe I'm a Blackhawk, that type of thing. We gotta get back there. Bedard's gonna really speed up that process. So I'm excited.
They have him on a 6 to 8 week time frame. I wonder how that's going to affect his Calder race.
I know he's still got a pretty solid lead. I want to say he's up like 7 to 10 points or something, but you know what? I think he's going to come back, and he's just going to take off, because he's going to have a little chip on his shoulder, because reading a lot of stories are like, he's got to protect himself better. He's got to get a little bit bigger and not play so loose out there. He's got to just, I don't know. I'm sure he sees it, and he's probably like, screw you guys. I'm going to come back and score 3 my first game and just light it up. So I still think he's going to win the Calder. Yeah.
And, for the first time, man, and in a while, they have a really good Calder race going on this year.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, Luke Hughes has been good, and defensemen kind of get passes with points.
Yeah.
And I know Fantelli's I think he's top 5, and then that Logan Cooley's up there, and I forget who else. But yeah, there's a lot of good young talent coming in, and I still think Bedard is number 1, and then there's a pretty big drop off to number 2. Not saying that they're bad players, but he's just at a different level.
Yeah, he is at a different level. But what I mean is that if you look at normally the Calder race the past few years, it's been, it's kind of
one guy
it's been like whatever,
yeah.
Like this year, man, there's a lot of young guys that have come in this season and are playing really, really good. Fantilli, not all of them have come in this season, but Logan Cooley, who else, man? Fantelli,
I forget. There's another good kid on Phoenix. It might
even Leo Carlson for the
Ducks, yeah.
For the Ducks. He's been playing really well, man. Not as good as Fantilli, but he has been playing well.
It makes you wonder, like they didn't like something with Fantilli, and
I wonder what it was.
I don't know, but I think maybe they got their guy, and they're really happy with it.
Yeah. Yeah, because from what I've heard from Columbus is that they love Fantilli over there. Say he's a nice kid.
They're saying he's a generational stud in the making, and unfortunately, he's in Columbus where not a lot of people watch. So that's just it sucks. But I mean, I at least he got drafted. He's honored by it, and he's playing for him. Unlike this kid we're going to be talking about.
Before I go any further, I got to let everybody know that we know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code ShyTomahawk. New customers bet just $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code ShyTomahawk. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Now back to Fantilli. Watching him play, man, he is a pretty strong guy on his skates, considering he's just a rookie and it's his first year in the league. I mean, I can see this guy getting stronger as the years go on, and I agree 100%. I think that he can be a force for whoever he plays for. I don't think that he's going to stick around in Columbus for forever, though.
Ooh, yeah, it's still too early. You got to think they have his rights till 26, I believe. So
yeah,
he's guaranteed to play for at least I think he's 19. So he's probably got a good 6-7 years, whatever. But I think he looks like when I look at his highlights and stuff, he looks like he's gonna be like a 30-goal guy every year once he starts learning and gets some good line mates and stuff like that. But I mean, I was a fan. I still am a fan. And if we didn't get Bedard, I was hoping we'd get this kid. I honestly, truly in my heart believed he would be a Blackhawk, but
I did too.
We were so lucky. So
I was preparing for it.
Yeah, and I would have been happy with it. I would have been really happy with it. But I'm obviously more happy with Bedard just because he's a force out there. But I think the Jackets, they had a good situation, and it's just not working out there. Even their goalie Elvis now, he's not happy with what's going on, and Johnny Hockey signed that big deal, and he kind of hasn't lived up to it. Patrick Laine is kind of a goofy character, but good, but he's real streaky, so they got to figure it out. They got like an identity issue. I think somewhat like the Hawks do. They're still looking to see what kind of team they're going to be. So, but unfortunately, they got all this money spent on these guys, and it's just not working out there. I'm not sure what you do.
Do you think Laine would be better off on another team?
You know what? When they traded him, the Jets traded him, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, dude, this guy's a 40 goal scorer. He's just one of those guys, like kind of like Matthews. This guy wants to shoot. He wants the puck, and they traded him for that Pierre-Marc Luc Dubois, whatever his name is. Who's never been a fan of him, and I know it was a big deal when he went to LA this year. He was kind of like a piece that they fit in, but. Yeah, I was really surprised by that, but I don't know about Line A. He's just a weird dude. You know, you see like pictures of him, and he's got weird suits, and he's bald at times, and he's just.
I mean, that's cool.
No, I'm just saying.
He's got personality. I like that.
He does, but he's just like He's really living the, like, he looks like Elton John at times. You know, he's got like what are you doing here, bud? And. It's like he walks into a game and he's like a healthy scratch. You know, what the hell? Like, when you're the top dog, why are you a healthy scratch? Like, what the frick's going on, you know? So
I think,
I'm not sure about him. I like him, but maybe a new team would help. But I mean, honestly, like, would you take a risk on him right now? Like, with his history, I don't know if I would.
What about Pierre-Luc Dubois? I mean, he's 6'4", 225. That's what you want. That's what you want to see. But this season, he's got 38 games played, 7 goals, 9 assists, or 16 points, and -9. You know, that's not. No. You know, I think that he's dropped significantly since his first couple seasons with Columbus.
Yeah, well, he had the Breadman with him. Of course, his numbers are going to be way better. And then obviously Breadman left, and then Pierre-Marc, whatever you want to call him, Frenchie, wasn't happy with Torts' coaching, and he starts, you know, they're fighting back and forth. But I mean, I love this when people like dig into Torts. They're like, oh, his coaching philosophy is horrible, but look what he's doing in Philly.
Oh yeah,
that team was god awful last year, and he knew it. And he said, this team has a locker room problem, and we're gonna fix it. And 1 year, this team is competing for a freaking playoff spot. Yeah. It's insane. So. Clearly, he was the problem. He was the problem, and that trade for the Jackets. I mean, they're probably thinking they won because obviously the guy's not in Winnipeg anymore. He's with LA, and LA spent a lot of money on him. And the numbers you just read, that's brutal. I mean, that's this guy should. They're probably thinking he was going to be putting up Panarin like numbers the years he was, and he's not that guy. You know, he was a high draft pick, and he's just. Kopitar is still like the man over there, which is crazy because he's getting old too.
He is, and they don't have somebody to take over. You know, Luc Dubois, he's only 25 years old, and he's on his third team already.
Yeah, that's the big boomer debate. Like man, he was talking about who was the guy we just got from Vancouver when Corey Perry was released. Bolivier, I believe.
Oh yeah, Anthony Bolivier.
So he started with the Islanders, and he was supposed to be a top dog, and you know, he went to Vancouver. Now he's with the Hawks, and this is his third team. It makes you wonder, like, what's going on with these guys? Like, these are top draft picks, and they're third team already, and they're like less than 25 years old. Something's not right, and you got to stay away from those guys.
We didn't give up anything for him too.
No, I think he made that trade, and he did the Canucks a huge favor because they got these guys that are going to need to get paid soon,
right?
And we lost $4 million in our cap hit with Perry being released, and we gained $5 when we traded for this guy. So I think that was just a money move, and hey, Vancouver, we're doing you a favor type of move.
Do you think that? Say like someone like Bolivier or Pierre-Luc Dubois, like someone like this who's obviously made it into the league. They've played really, really good hockey at one point in their life. They come to a bottom team like the Blackhawks right now, and they're like, you know what? They're a bottom team, but you know what? These guys are building something here. You know, might have an opportunity to play with Connor Bedard. You know, do you think that this motivates them in a way to maybe bring up their play?
I think Bolivier for sure is going to. I like his game. I thought before he got hurt, he was playing well. He's smart out there, makes some good plays, and I mean, if I was an old guy, got traded, or even a young guy, and it's like I get to play with Connor Bedard, yeah, sign me up. My numbers are going to go up.
It seems like you kind of get lucky in a way, Foligno always mentions, he's like, you know what, I went to a team that won the most regular season games in NHL history, and they lost in the first round. And then I played on another team that nobody thought we were going to do anything, and we were making some noise going into the playoffs. So not buying into kind of all of the smoke that's out there, and in a way, maybe giving your that locker room like a much needed clear the air type of a thing. Like, hey, don't listen to what's going on out there. Everything's all good. We know what we're doing here. And having maybe somebody like Bolivier, who's been in New York, been in Vancouver, like, hey, you know what? I've seen a few things in my few years in the league. And one thing I know not to do is to put too much stock into what you hear in the, in the news, and what they're, what they're putting out. Just recently, with the whole thing with Kevin Hayes and Tortorella is another prime example of what's going on in the media that can influence kind of what's going on the ice and what's going on in the locker rooms.
Yeah, that's brutal, and good for Torts for calling that guy out right in front of his face. And
yeah, he did. So so little backstory is the reporter essentially put out a statement saying that because of something that Kevin Hayes said, Cutter Gauthier didn't want to play with the Flyers for that reason. And Torts responded to what happened. He came into the press conference and said, "Is the guy who said this in here?" And then the guy said, "Yeah, I'm right here." He looks at him. He goes,
shit.
"Oh, you."
Yeah, you.
and he pretty much defended Kevin Hayes, rightfully so, and saying that some of these things that are said in the media can affect what's going on inside of the locker rooms and affect these guys' lives.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't want to hear that kid getting like death threats from Philadelphia Flyer fans. I mean, that's crazy. You're going to get psychos and idiots everywhere saying stupid stuff like that, and right. I'm sure 99% of the Philly fan base, they don't feel that way. Of course, they're going to be like, screw this guy then, let him go over there and let him be a superstar.
Right.
But obviously they could be upset. I mean, I'm kind of upset for him. This guy's a top pick. He was really good in the World Juniors, and if I'm Danny Briere, I'm going to be really upset, but I'm going to be really happy with the return I got, because Jamie Drysdale, he's a good defenseman, and he's already doing really well for Torts, and I'd be really happy. But with Cutter, we can call him Cutter, I guess, but I mean, this guy and his agent, they didn't even talk to Danny Briere and the Flyers. And they had 4 respected hockey-minded people trying. Patrick Sharp was one of them. They had Jonesy, who's he's with he's been in the media for a long time, but he's now
Keith Jones.
Yeah, he's now I think he's like an executive or president type of role guy. Danny Briere and John LeClaire, even another legend.
Yeah,
they wouldn't even try. They wouldn't even talk to him, and they wouldn't even give him a reason. Like, at least be a man and say, "Listen, I don't want to play for Philadelphia because you guys." I mean, he has a right to say it, but I mean, a lot of these new kids, they should be honored if any team drafts them, and they want you, like they want to lock you up. But this kid obviously got spooked, or I can only speculate, but with what I heard, and of course, what the Twitter media will say is, "Oh, because Torts sucks and he doesn't want to play for Torts." I find that very false. I heard that he was upset last season after his college year. There was like, I think, 15, 20 games left in the NHL season, and Philadelphia didn't call him up. He didn't get to burn out his first year in the entry-level contract, which that's what I think I've heard from, respected guys on like XM radio type of guys, but that could be it. But he didn't say anything. So it's hard to, we don't have the truth yet, but I think he owes the Flyers the truth. And I think eventually we'll hear about it, but you don't want the kid getting death threats over a team doesn't want to play for. But I think he's worse off though now. I mean, Anaheim, you don't have guys watching you there. There's a very limited amount of fans. Philadelphia is a very passionate sports town, and I mean, say what you want, they're crazy, but they show up for their teams. So I'd rather play in a full barn than a building with, like 4,000 people, and sometimes Snoop Dogg shows up. But that's just me. I think I'd rather play for the Flyers.
Do you think his agent had something to do with this?
I don't know. I think the agents right now, they just they kiss a lot of butt, and they want to make their clients very comfortable and kind of hype them up and build them up to be so good and, just be like yes men type of guys. But I think a lot of it's got to be Cutter. He's got maybe a very arrogant thinking like, hey, I'm too good for this and I'm not going to play for you. But I just, it brings you back to the Lindros thing. Lindros at least said, I do not want to play for the owner of the Quebec Nordiques. I will not play there. So, and you know what? He got traded and he was good. He Hall of Fame guy. He backed it up, and I hope this kid isn't a bust because he's going to really let down the Anaheim Ducks organization, and Philly's going to, probably just dig into this kid for that.
And turn into like an Alexander Daigle. Ironically, I think he's got a Netflix documentary coming up about being a
bust.
Being a bust, yeah, and like the effect that it had on his life. And so check that out. I think that comes out in like March or something like that. I'll have to look into it.
Gotta be tough, man. It's
I
tough.
did see the trailer for it. I saw the trailer for it. Here's the thing. If this kid if you have all this drama already with this guy, is this really a kid that you want? Like, Matt, say for instance, you're the GM and you've got this kid that's already stirring up this shit and he hasn't even played for you yet. Is this something that you really want to deal with this player? Because what if he does turn into a big deal, right? Then what are you going to have to deal with?
Well, I think the Flyers were really good to this kid. Like,
sure.
They said, hey, he said, I'm not playing, and they looked for a deal. They were smart. They saw his stock pretty high because he had a good World Juniors, and they're like, you know what? We can get somebody really good for him, or we can hold on to him and hope he changes his mind, and hopefully they can work something out. But they did this kid a favor because if they really wanted to, they could have just held his contract, his rights for the next 3 years, and then, hey, what are you going to do then, kid? Eventually you're going to have to sign. But I thought Philly was very generous and nice for what they did.
Can the Players Association file a grievance for something like that?
If they were to hold on to him?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think so. If they feel like he's not ready, no, I don't think so. I think they own his rights. Like going back to Kevin Hayes, he did it to the Blackhawks. He didn't want to play for the Blackhawks. He was drafted by the Hawks, and he waited out his rights ending. And he signed as a free agent with the Rangers. And I mean, that's probably what would have happened. But if you look back, it's like, dude, you just burned out 3 years. You could have. Kevin Hayes was lucky because he stayed in college. Right. But I think this kid is he might be a junior, right?
I'm not sure what his age is.
Maybe he would, lose a year. But again, like Philadelphia was very good to this kid, and he should be grateful that they could have just held on to him and said, no, you're going to wait it out with us, kid, because we kind of own you right now. So, but I'm sure Torts and Briere are happy with the return because I was very surprised when I saw that trade. I actually couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, this kid is supposed to be like the next defenseman stud there. And, even Trevor Zegras was thrown off guard because that was his buddy. And now it sounds like Zegras isn't happy. So he could be getting traded at the deadline. He's got a pretty decent deal, but clearly just having a bad season this year with injuries and not the lack of production. But we might even see him get traded.
Do you think that he'd fit in with the Blackhawks?
Oh,
He's not making a ton of money.
I'm not a big fan, but
Me either.
I at this point, putting a skill guy with Bedard, it would be interesting, but I wouldn't want to give up anything. I wouldn't want to give up a first round pick or a top prospect for him right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to either.
I think if you're Verbeek, you're gonna want somebody like a Frank Nazar to replace this kid.
No way.
And but you got to look at his standpoint. He's just not going to give Zegras away for like a Jason Dickinson type of guy. You got to get somebody good in return. So I don't think it would work for the Hawks. It might work for a team like maybe New Jersey. Go play with your boy Jack Hughes, and that would be very interesting.
Oh my gosh. They would just get smaller. They think they need to get a little bit bigger.
Yep, they'd get knocked around, and shoulders would be getting separated a lot in that team.
Especially when they look to get into battles with
the Blackhawks,
with bottom performing teams for some reason.
Let's play some '90s hockey against the Hawks when we got
they got nothing.
Guys. Yeah,
they got nothing.
That made no sense. Yep.
Hold on, I want to look up Timo Meyer's stats this year really quick because
that was another interesting move. You know what I was thinking about the other day? Logan Couture. I know he's still hurt, but that's a guy I'd like to have on our team. Another good leader.
Mainstay. So 9 goals, 6 assists for 15 points is a minus 16 in 28 games. This is the exact opposite of what they were expecting when they traded for this guy, man.
Dude, he scored 40 last year, so that's an ouch.
Big one. Minus 16, man. He's a minus 53 on his career, so looks like he doesn't like to play.
Very bad.
Doesn't like to play defense.
Yeah, that Sharks team is bad.
On the opposite side over here, we've got the Toronto Maple Leafs. William Nylander just got paid $92 million on a contract extension, 11.5 annual cap hit for that. They locked him up, man, and they haven't done anything to make themselves better. They've got a lot of money going to these top 4 guys. And I'm going to tell you something. Mitch Marner is going to be looking to get paid, man. He's making $10.9 million right now. They say he's going to be the fastest player to reach, I think, 500 or 600 points in Toronto Maple Leafs history in the least amount of games. It might be 600 points in the least amount of games. I'll have to look that up. I remember seeing that earlier today. He's going to be looking to get paid, man. Yeah,
and he deserves it. He absolutely will deserve it. But he's got too many guys in front of him making big bucks. And when you think of the history of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the highest paid player, who do you think of? I don't think it's William Nylander, but it is. He is the highest paid Maple Leaf ever. And you got guys like Austin Matthews, who's going to be probably the best goal scorer of the next generation and maybe the greatest American of all time. Matt Sundin, you had all those really good players back in the day, and William Nylander got the biggest contract. It's crazy. But definitely Mitch Marner is a way better player, and he's probably going to look for 12 or 13. So Tavares is going to be the odd man out. He's probably going to go to a league minimum because he says he wants to be a Maple Leaf forever. So
he's from there.
Yeah, he's been a good captain for him, but that contract is just I thought it was a little too long, especially with these guys like Nylander, Matthews, Marner. They're starting to get paid now, and he should have took a little less term. It maybe would have worked out better for him. They could have kept some guys like Zach Hyman. He jumped over to Edmonton. He's been a force for that team.
Yeah,
and he's really fitting in over there. And they say nothing but great things about him on and off the ice, and does some good charity work and stuff like that. But that's a guy you'd probably want on your team too. And they're losing all these guys because they're so top heavy, and they just can't pay them. So,
well, here's the thing. We're looking at Tavares. Next year is his last year at $11 million. He's a free agent after that, so they're going to sign him for
league minimum. You have to.
He said that?
No, well, no way. If he wants to stay here, it would have to be league minimum or at least 2, maybe 3, but he's got to do short-term deals. There's no way it's going to work.
Oh, here's another thing. And that's that same year. That is the last year of Mitch Marner's contract at 10.9. So he can get that bump. If they want to keep him, he can get that bump in pay.
I think they got no choice. You got to keep Marner. You got to keep Matthews. And, they want to keep Nylander. I was texting you. I remember. I'm like, hopefully Nylander could play some goalie because they don't have any money for the net. They're hoping to outscore their problems. You can do that in the season, but when it's tight in the playoffs, ouch, it's going to be hard for him. And I see another early exit, man. I do.
I do too. But the cap is going to be going up. We've got Tavares' contract coming off. Is there light at the end of the tunnel for the Maple Leafs?
Yeah, he's been a good captain, good player for him. But they got to all dig deep and try to get to the final. They have to, and they can barely get to the third round or second round. So it's going to be tough with no goalie. And I know Martin Jones is kind of the guy that stepped in. He's been really good, but I don't know, man. For the playoffs, it's just different.
Really interesting, man. Really interesting on what they've got going on, dude. Because I think if doing a little cap gymnastics, man, they might be able to make it out of this, and then maybe get a couple free agencies when the cap goes up big time.
You know what, man? I think if they can move a big contract, maybe try to get like a Gibson in net and go for it this season, go all in and pray to God it works out. But I just, the goalie development just hasn't been there for him. There's some teams that just get so lucky. There's like Nashville, for instance. I mean, they got elite goalies that come in and out, retire. Another guy comes in. He's just as good. Toronto just couldn't figure it out. It's rough for them.
Well, next year, the cap is supposed to go up by $4 million, which is the biggest in a long time. So it's going to go from
Mitch, though,
83.5 this year to 87.
Well, and then don't forget, Willie Nylander's at like $6 million right now. That's doubled pretty much.
Doubled them, yeah.
So then, you're going to be losing guys, obviously, but. Yeah, Mitch is going to need to get paid, so they're going to need all that cap space. They're not going to really change much. There's going to be some like league minimum guys, some young guys coming up, and that's what it's going to be for the next couple of years with the Maple Leafs.
If you were say a younger player, and you know that the cap's going to go up by 10 million, 25, 26. When the NBA had something similar happen to them, when their cap went up really, really big because of their TV deal, guys were getting astronomical contracts, still are. Do you think that we're going to be seeing, instead of guys bringing in, better guys, do you think the guys that are already there are going to be taking up a lot of that cap money?
You know what, man? I hope they keep it at like the league minimum for like 3 years. Like you got to put your time in. I know the NBA,
okay.
I heard a clip of Jordan saying like, man, back in the day we had to work for a contract. Like we earned it. He's like, now guys are getting paid millions for not even stepping foot on the court yet. So I hope it doesn't get to that with hockey. I hope they, I always go back to the bridge deal. And you know what? I like the Trevor Zegras bridge deal that he took. I'm sure he wanted a long time, like 8 years, but
probably Jack Hughes money.
Yeah, but I like that bridge deal because you give your team, you're giving your team a chance to keep, you're young still. You're going to get paid eventually, but you can put together a good team and keep that team for a while. But now you got these kids that they literally go from $950K to like $10 million now.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And even Kane and Taves took a good bridge deal. They took I believe it was like
a norm back then.
36 million 6-year bridge.
And
then they got their big long-term one. So I like that. And look what, you were still able to keep a good team together. So it sucks when you got 2 guys and 3 guys making $13 million. That's where the Maple Leafs are right now.
Yeah,
and they can't fill
at a
their
time.
depth in. They can't even get a solid net guy. So
Right.
it sucks. I hope they can keep it like how it is. And, you know, obviously guys are going to get paid, but you want to keep it fair.
So next season, this season's the 23-24 season. The salary cap's at $83.5 million. It went up $1 million from last year. In 24-25, the cap is going to go from 83.5 to between 87.5 or 88 million. So that's a big, about $5 million cap hit. And then after that, 25-26, it's going to be 92. So from now, 83.5 million to 2 years from now, it's going to go up by about almost 10 million, 9.5 million, which is going to be huge because
it's huge for us.
It's great. And to be honest with you, it's great for players because a lot of these guys, they play really hard and, they should be rewarded for their work, especially compared to what some of these other contracts these guys are getting in some of these other sports.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
Unreal. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. Baseball, even the NBA, man. The NBA, we've got guys that are making one guy, I think he's making like 65 million a year. A year.
That's that's pretty much 3 lines and a goalie in the NHL. You know, it's insane.
I think Steph Curry is making, 50 million a year, but Steph Curry is an all-time great now. So I guess you can see paying him that kind of money, he's still playing well. But yeah, there's some crazy contracts out there, especially in the NBA. And it's some of these NBA guys. I mean, these NHL guys are going to be able to cash in pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm all for the players getting paid if they deserve it. And you know what, Willie Nylander, he's been very good. And I think if he gets that, he deserves it. So.
He's been very consistent for them.
Yeah.
Mitch Marner has too. These guys, they just haven't gotten that playoff performance from all of them at the same time.
That's why there's a GM. He's got to figure out the problems. He's got to pay his top guys, and then it's his job to find guys that he could fill the lower roles with. And sometimes it's hard to do when you got guys making that money. But if you got those guys, you're very thankful you got them because they're going to get you to the playoffs every year. Just probably 4 guys alone could do it, So Brad Treliving is the GM there. He's got his work cut out for him. And, Kyle Davidson's in a different boat. He's got loads of cap space. And he's got to pretty much plan it where, Bedard probably isn't going to get that bridge deal. He's probably going to get 10 million right away, maybe for 8 years or something.
Minimum 12. Minimum.
He could. So he's got to figure that out, but at least he's got that luxury of knowing he's got all that space and a bunch of young guys. So it's a lot easier for him, but I mean, he still has to draft well and put a good team around Connor. So Connor wants to be a Blackhawk. So he's kind of like 2 different tales right now. And, Treliving has got to go for a cup because people in Toronto are they're hungry. They are. And it's just not looking good because he's got a lot of hurdles he's got to jump to, find guys that could stop the puck. We know they can score, but they got to keep the puck out. And that's their biggest problem, in my opinion.
Well, all right, everybody, that's all we got for you today. Let us know what you think about the cap going up big time. Bedard is going to be getting paid. Do you think that NHL players should be paid more money? I'm curious what everybody thinks. We'll catch you on the next one, everybody. This is a Tomahawk, and we're out of here.